Welcome to This Explainer. Right now, there are literally millions of students taking online classes all across the globe. But let's be totally honest for a second. Just logging in and actually learning are two incredibly different things. You see, a vast majority of online learners really struggle to maintain their grades, while a select few figure out the exact strategies needed to totally conquer the digital classroom and ace their most competitive exams. So today, we're going to unpack a complete survival guide to help you become the latter.
Okay, let's dive into this because I want to start by challenging your current habits right out of the gate. Be honest with yourself for a second here. When you fire up your laptop or your phone for a lecture, are you sitting up straight at a desk or are you lounging on your bed? Are you actively solving problems or kind of just waiting for the teacher to reveal the answer? If you're taking the path of least resistance, you know you're already falling into the absolute most common traps of digital learning. The reason online learning feels so insanely difficult is simply because it strips away all of our natural guardrails. Think about it. In a physical classroom, you're forced into a schedule, right? You have a teacher watching you, a bell that rings, and a highly structured environment. But the online world, it's often completely asynchronous, incredibly isolating, and built on the exact same devices we use for highly distracting entertainment. Suddenly, the burden is entirely on us to maintain that focus.
To survive this shift, we need a system. Here is our 5-tip survival guide. 1. Recreate the classroom. 2. Hack your motivation. 3. Master digital organization. 4. Find the gold. And 5. Retain and connect.
Let's start right off with tip 1. Recreate the classroom. We really must artificially build the structure that the internet lacks. Since the internet doesn't have physical boundaries, we've got to build that structure ourselves to avoid getting caught in the asynchronous learning trap. First up, set up a dedicated workspace. Literally never study where you sleep. Second, treat online classes like they're happening in real time. Make recurring calendar events for your study blocks. And finally, maintain a strict morning routine. Just because you don't have a commute doesn't mean you should roll out of bed 3 minutes before a Zoom call. Wake up, get dressed, and build that early momentum to tell your brain, hey, it's time to work. On a physical campus, you naturally have that mad dash across the quad to get from one building to the next. And that actually serves an incredible psychological purpose. It breaks up the day. When you're learning online, you have to recreate that. Between sessions, get up, stretch, take a quick walk to the kitchen, or just completely change your scenery. This simple habit absolutely prevents your study time from melting into one giant, endless, exhausting blob of screen time.
Moving right along to tip 2, hack your motivation. We have all been there, feeling incredibly motivated in the first hour of a course, only for that energy to completely evaporate. To beat that mental game, I want you to look at this number, 53. That was the All-India rank of a student who recently cracked one of the toughest, most fiercely competitive engineering exams in the entire world. So how did he fight off online distractions? He used what we call the wallpaper strategy. He literally made his ultimate goal, getting into his dream institute, the wallpaper on his phone and laptop. Every single time he went to open a distracting app, his goal just stared right back at him, snapping his focus back to what truly mattered.
But let's be real, massive long-term goals aren't always enough for daily focus. In a physical classroom, a teacher might applaud you for a great answer, which gives you this instant rush of motivation. But online classes? They totally lack that immediate physical feedback. So we actually end up having to engineer our own instant gratification through our reward system. Choose a study goal, like crushing 2 hours of intense focus, and tie it directly to a reward, like 10 minutes of gaming or checking social media. You have to give your brain something fun to chase every single day. All right, let's jump into tip 3, master digital organization.
Paper handouts and physical lockers are completely a thing of the past. Now, what's really interesting here is how this loss of physical space affects us. It all comes down to episodic memory formation. Our brains naturally love to tie information to physical locations. I mean, you probably remember exactly where you were when you watched a pivotal moment in your favorite TV show, right? Like remembering exactly where you were when the Fire Nation attacked. But when every single class happens in the exact same chair, staring at the exact same screen, your brain loses those geographical anchors. Assignments and due dates just blur together, making it way too easy for critical things to slip through the cracks.
Because you can no longer rely on your physical environment to remind you of things, we have to rely heavily on external systems. So first rule, never ever save everything in a giant jumbled mess on your desktop. Create a main folder for every single class, build subfolders for complex projects, and keep one dedicated, clearly labeled digital notebook per subject. We essentially have to build a flawless digital filing cabinet that does the remembering for us. Time for tip 4, find the gold.
Let's face it, some lectures just feel totally dry. But an expert in a TEDx talk actually tested this by watching a highly obscure video on how to iron a Scottish kilt, and surprisingly found it fascinating. Why? Because of the cocktail party effect. Our brains naturally filter for what we care about. It's exactly like hearing your name across a loud, crowded room. Knowing this, we have to actively hunt for the gold in our lectures, the bizarre facts, the hidden tips, or the surprising anecdotes. If you approach a lecture looking for treasure, your brain will suddenly tune in.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we can actually make those facts stick using the method of loci. You take the key points from your lecture and you link them to physical locations in your room using incredibly absurd imagery. So if you learned that ironing burns 75 calories, imagine yourself literally ironing your bedroom ceiling while sweating profusely. If you learned about finding the gold in lectures, picture your professor standing in the corner of your room throwing actual gold coins at you. Next week, you just look at the ceiling or that corner, and bam, that wild image will trigger the memory of the fact. Which brings us to our final strategy. Tip 5, retain and connect.
This tip tackles the two absolute biggest hurdles of online learning: post-lecture memory retention and sheer social isolation. We aren't meant to learn entirely alone. You can mitigate this physical isolation by forming virtual study groups. Hop on a Zoom call with classmates a couple of times a week to review notes, or utilize silent work calls. You can use tools like FocusMate, or honestly just keep a camera on with a friend while you both work in total silence. Just the presence of another productive person on your screen perfectly recreates that focused, accountable vibe of sitting at a shared table in the campus library.
But listen, how you actually watch the lecture dictates everything. It is so incredibly tempting to just wait for the recorded version and blast it on 1.5x speed, thinking, oh, I'll save time. But here's the harsh reality. Watching on fast forward completely destroys your focus. A 2-hour video ends up taking 4 hours because you constantly have to pause, rewind, or you just get distracted. Instead, you should always aim to watch live lectures and make your notes in real time, right alongside the teacher. And here is the absolute magic number to make sure those live notes actually matter: 15 minutes. The most crucial thing you can do is spend just 10 to 15 minutes reviewing your notes immediately after the live class ends. Do not wait until tomorrow. If you review those pages right after the session, that information transfers directly into your long-term memory permanently. It is going to save you countless hours of panic studying before an exam. So there you have it. If you master these 5 tips for online learning, you possess the exact toolkit required to survive and truly thrive in the digital classroom. The only thing left now is implementation. Set up your workspace, find the gold in your very next lecture, and review those notes immediately. But before you log off this explainer, I want you to ask yourself, what will your very first reward be after crushing your next online lecture?